Welcome to the Inspire to Invest podcast, where we're sharing inspiring stories from business owners, entrepreneurs, and real estate investors on the pursuit of wealth and financial freedom. This episode of the Inspire to Invest podcast has been brought to you by the REI Loop. Hey everybody, welcome to Inspire to Invest. I have Rocky Dinger here with me from Toronto, and she is a visionary founder of Mortgage Savvy, a brokerage that's not just about transactions, but about connections. She's not only a mortgage broker, she's a guide to your path to financial freedom. Rocky's mission is clear: to empower clients to control their finances to make better decisions. So thank you for being here today. How are you?
I'm well, and thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, of course. Now, I know we had the chance to kind of meet up a couple of years ago, and it was really interesting just hearing more about your path, not only as a mortgage broker, but also as a real estate investor. So maybe you can just walk us back a little bit to where things were and then how you got to where you are today.
Absolutely. So I entered financial services in general as sort of a career that would have provided stability. I was looking for stability, and the goal was to climb that corporate ladder. So through university, working in as a teller, and then post-university, I was fortunate enough to enter corporate banking. And in that space, I was, you know, exposed to professionals that, were living in the downtown core and renting. And what I describe now is that Instagram life. And getting to a level of comfort in that sort of place of being able to, have a successful career and also spend 99% of your disposable income.
Yeah.
There's that point where there's that switch, and purchasing my first property was really the first time that I was able to really truly understand what's involved in the actual planning process of actually getting there. And, taking home ownership on was one part of the process, but then understanding that this asset had really grown for me, years climbing the corporate ladder. I was able to save more in owning my property for a year versus saving for the last 5. And that really was like that moment to say, there's opportunity here. Coming from financial services, how was I going to utilize that to kind of make my way? And the goal is to build wealth for myself.
Yeah, and I think that's really smart. And I think the way that a lot of the real estate investors will look at a property, if they have been educated in a certain way, is just looking at that principal recapture, that passive appreciation, and how significant that can be in an area like Toronto, where in some instances we were seeing things going up like 25-30% in 1 year, right? So I think there's so much power in that if you know how to use it appropriately, and using some of the equity in your home, whether that's like the Smith maneuver or using a HELOC or something like that. But I think with appropriate guidance, you can really capitalize on that and really build your wealth.
Absolutely. And I think you nailed it. There's power and leverage when done correctly and where you have the right education.
Yeah.
And that's what I need to stress. We all hear stories. You'll hear the stories where individuals have taken on investments that have worked. And then you hear the stories where they have not. And it is, you can't time the market. But what you can do is put a solid plan together and educate yourself, understand what your risk threshold is, and then take actions according to that. That's going to keep you in a safe space. And longevity. I often say, think long term.
Yeah.
This isn't going to be instant.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that's reality. There are those that will win the lottery, and there are those that have made very smart decisions and secured, significant sort of profit or equity gain through making a move here and there, but that's generally not the norm. So realistic expectations and understanding that taking a long-term focus is what's going to pay off in the long run.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So now you started with that one property, and I think when we met, you said that you had 40 or something like that. So maybe you can walk us down the path of, how you continue to grow and diversify with your portfolio, and how you kind of take some of those lessons and learnings with your own clients on the mortgage side.
So we grew to 18 properties, and those were above 40 doors is what we had. And that was a very gradual process. That's the reason I entered into the mortgage space, because I wanted to understand what was available to me. So it was a gradual process. And what I've done within my mortgage brokerage is really supported clients with a very simple model because that can be overwhelming. That
Yeah.
can be very overwhelming.
Yeah.
So we start with the model of trying to get a client into their owner occupied forever home as quickly as possible. The faster we're able to do that, the faster we're able to devise a strategy.
Yeah.
Secondary is the two investments that we look at helping clients secure through leverage. And then utilizing the ability to refinance to either prepayments on the primary to eventually get them mortgage free, if that is their personal goal,
Yeah.
or using additional leverage to build out a real estate portfolio.
Yeah.
Now, given the last few years, I'm always going to lead with transparency. I think it's important to have a diversified portfolio. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
Real estate isn't always liquid, so you've got to understand a client's, sort of risk assessment as well.
Yeah.
With a gradual process, right? And then learning how to sort of work within the parameters of various lending guidelines to then secure additional properties. So
Yeah.
when we reached our max personally, we then grew to secure properties under holdcos and continue to build both on the commercial and the residential side.
Yeah. Now, were you managing your entire portfolio at that time, or did you have a property manager that would take care of some of those for you?
So we always had professionals in place to support. So that's something that I think I always urge as well, that I think it's important that, again, this comes down to proper planning and execution. It's not going shopping on a weekend.
Yeah.
It's understanding what is your, you need, if you're taking on a property, be expected to be out of pocket.
Yeah.
If you're intending on purchasing with the intention of something completely cash flowing, that's not reality. So I think it's important that you are buffering in the additional costs associated with the supports you need as you're
Yeah.
going to continue to build as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I think that's something that's important to consider, especially in Toronto where prices are really, really high. I mean, I recorded with somebody else that was in Baltimore, and you can buy properties for like 50 to 60,000. You're still renting them at 1,500. So the cash flow is really high, but it's also in an area that has like a lot of lower income, and you could have challenges and stuff like that. And I think just understanding those landlord tenant laws are so important, and having that right professional in place so that you can get hopefully the best tenants possible, because otherwise I think you'll potentially find yourself in a situation where if you have non-payment of rent or something like that, and you're in this really high expensive area, like that can eat up so much money so quickly and put you in a really dangerous situation. So yeah, agreed. I think having the right people in place to take care of your investments are really important.
For sure. And it's understanding the demographics too, right? When
Yeah.
you're looking to buy in a specific area, you may be spending more, but that property may give you access to a higher income demographic
Yeah.
and maybe longevity in that. Because ideally, in a perfect world, we have good tenants that are stable, that will make their payments. And so these are considerations as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, when you look back at, your trajectory and how you've grown, what would you say is something that you're most proud of?
Building mortgage savvy. We truly are a brokerage that is sort of focused on helping clients build wealth, mortgage free. I had a client just last week say to me, well, then if you're helping us with this and we pay off the
Yeah.
mortgage, how do you make money? And I said, because then we take the conversation to that next level. The mortgage is a tool.
Yeah.
It's a tool we use to help clients execute on that final vision. And money is scary and it creates an element of fear. And what we like to do is do what everybody else is doing. But what works for someone else isn't necessarily going to work for us.
Yeah.
So it's about planning. And so what I say is there's tax strategies, there is protecting what you're building in real estate. And I can't stress this enough because this is really my new sort of message is that as you build, strategically protect what you are building. Understand that you understand the laws and that you're putting the necessary sort of safeguards in place to protect what you're building.
Yeah.
So the estate piece, or what I call legacy planning. So I believe that as, sort of professionals, there's an element of financial life planning that comes with it as well.
Yeah.
And really taking on that role. And I do believe that we do that effectively. We're not a transactional brokerage. We are about building out a strategy that's going to get you ahead, right? That higher rate may actually net you more in pocket every year from a tax perspective, and then apply that as a prepayment onto your mortgage. Or when you're calculating using a line of credit to buy a product, you don't calculate that based on the net rate, calculated on how we're going to allocate that against the income. When you're investing, you're doing so with the purpose of having someone else pay your mortgage.
Yeah.
A portion of that becomes a taxable write-off. A portion of it is considered income.
Yeah.
You need to create a balancing act. And so there's so much more than to, get a mortgage approval and go out and shop. There's that strategy building. And I think that that's what I'm most proud of, is that we take clients effectively through that process.
Yeah, no, I think that that's really smart. Now, I think you highlighted something there that I wanted to focus on a little bit more is just again protecting your investment. So, talking more about challenges and obstacles, can you shed light on something that, was a big obstacle that you faced over the last several years and how you overcame that?
So most recently, over the last 15 months, I've gone through some significant changes, being in a position of, financially retirement sort of opportunities, a blessed life, lost my husband and my mother in the span of 10 weeks. For 10 weeks, my world changed. And the significance of that was understanding that we had not protected our assets. I'm a widow. This is not what I envisioned, or when I say that to people, there's usually an element of shock. But that is my reality. My reality is that I run a successful brokerage and I'm in my clients day to day supporting them.
Yeah.
We often will neglect to really go back and slow down to reassess our own personal circumstances. And we assume things happen to other people. They're not happening to us. We feel untouchable. And so it's the one lesson I've learned is still lead with the positive energy of everything, always, sort of manifestation of like positive, live in the moment, carry that energy, but ensure that you're creating that soft landing.
Yeah.
That requires ensuring that you're structuring things correctly.
Yeah.
I can't stress that enough.
Will you talk about how you didn't feel like you were protected? Where do you feel like there were gaps?
So with respect to wills, properties under holdcos, the role of an executor isn't a privilege. It's a responsibility that needs to be designated to an individual that has a skill set to manage your estate
Yeah.
and the complexities within it.
Yeah.
So not having those safeguards in place, assumptions of certain assets, defaulting,
Yeah.
requirement of having a will. Oftentimes, like when I'm doing a mortgage application, there's always a dominant partner. There always is. There's one person that takes the lead.
Yeah.
And it's so important that we have two people that take that collective ownership.
Yeah.
And or an awareness
Yeah.
to understand where the information is.
Yeah, no, I hear that completely because I feel like I'm that person in my relationship. And through some of the executive coaching I got, that's where they had advised, like, I had a will when I bought my first property, but then we had it updated. And I guess when you get married, it actually has to be updated again. Like, there's all these things you need to be mindful of that it actually doesn't carry forward with marriage. But then when we had our daughter, then you're looking at things like, who would take care of her if anything ever happened to us and who that executor would be and stuff like that. And it's something that, because we put it all in place, I'm sure we'll live to 110 and never need it. But at the same time, you never want to be in that situation because you have to think about where that could leave your partner if those things aren't in place, or even worse, where that would leave your children if you both were to disappear overnight, right? So I think you can never be too careful. And it's not even something that's that complicated to do, but I think it is something that a lot of people neglect to put appropriate attention on.
Absolutely. And the contingencies, the added cash flow needed for a period of time as things aren't instant.
Yeah.
So it's understanding there's a cash flow component, there is a cash value component, understanding what that looks like, and individually building out that end game, that strategy. As entrepreneurs, we think we're going to be able to kind of do this forever. But reality is that we need to start financially planning for what does that cash flow look like
Yeah.
out here, and what are we doing right now to put in place? What strategies are we putting into place?
Yeah.
Even with respect to, insurance is seen as, a death benefit, and I steer away from that. It's not the death benefit. It's an element of protecting sort of tax, you know, obligations.
Yeah.
Two, it's understanding that you can actually use it as the very smart tax-free way to leverage sort of retained earnings from a corporation
Yeah.
into something that you can borrow against that's going to subsidize your retirement, right? And so when I went through this transition, I realized it's me, myself, and I. I'm building out my own strategy. There's no fallback anymore. It's just me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's so important. And that leads me to my next question in regards to lessons. Is there anything else that you would say that if you could go back, you would do differently?
Absolutely. I would have taken that ownership. I would have pushed myself to do a little bit more. I think we all feel like we've hit the ceiling, but you know what? Knowledge is power, and what we don't know
Yeah.
opens opportunities up. And it's important to also realize that it's okay to have somebody to default to, like in the gym. I know I have a personal trainer because I need accountability. I want results. I want someone to check in with, someone that's going to be there with me.
Yeah.
I'll do the work, but I need someone for the guidance. And the same thing applies here.
Yeah.
It's so important. It's interesting how you'll walk into, for example, to secure a mortgage, walk out and not necessarily have that ongoing support or coaching. But when it comes to this wealth building, you need to work with a team of individuals that understand your specific goals, not just the transaction of it, and are going to be there to help you get there. We can't do it on our own. We're busy in our day-to-day family life. You need to have a team, just as you have, a commitment to a trainer at the gym. It's very similar to that.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. Now, on that note, we're just going to take a really brief break for word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back. There's no denying that real estate is one of the tried and true ways to grow your wealth. But if you don't have access to the right systems or software, you could run into issues from the very beginning. If this sounds like you, then you have to check out the REI Loop. This is the ultimate tool for real estate investors. It's loaded with deals, resources, and so much more. This platform will help you streamline acquisitions and dispositions and give you access to a powerful CRM to manage all of your relationships with clients, potential clients, and suppliers. You can take advantage of a free trial, or better yet, they have an offer of $99 a month. Check them out at The REI Loop on social and thereiloop.com. The REI Loop is your go-to platform for everything related to real estate and real estate investing. Grow a portfolio to give you the financial freedom and long-term legacy that you're after. Again, go to thereiloop.com and give them a follow at The REI Loop. Welcome to the Wealth Club, an exclusive community dedicated to elevating your journey towards financial freedom, well-being, and success. The journey to 1% starts here. Join like-minded leaders and commit to growth for the mind, body, bankroll, and soul. Learn all the proven techniques to change your life forever with direct access to a massive team of more than 10 tried and true experts. Moreover, members enjoy priority access to investment opportunities, job openings, and partnerships within the community. For just $1 a day, members gain entry to specialized forums covering a wide spectrum of fields. Discover diverse income streams, new opportunities, collaborations, and employment. Partake in weekly Zoom calls with our team and join monthly live Q&A sessions. Compete and win cash prizes. Active members top the leaderboard for monthly rewards. Ready to get started? Join today to unlock your true potential. To sign up, go to school.com/The Wealth Club. I value transparency, integrity, and trust. If you choose to work with me, you can be assured that business will be conducted honestly and openly. Time is of the essence in this industry, so you can expect nothing short of quick, clear communication from me. I'll keep you informed every step of the way so you feel comfortable throughout this entire process. Our homes are where we eat, sleep, relax, and play. My clients' best interests are at the heart of everything I do. And with this said, my service to you doesn't end when the transaction does. As your realtor, I'll not only help you buy and sell your property, I'll also educate and support you along the way. I want to help you fulfill your goal of home ownership and become your trusted real estate resource for life. I can't wait to share my passion for real estate with you. More importantly, find you the perfect house to turn into your home. Looking to buy, sell, or invest in Durham Region or Toronto? Let's chat. Inspired to Invest is proud to support the Beyond Success program. In today's complex world, it's absolutely crucial for our youth to learn how to take charge of their financial future. We believe that every young person deserves access to accurate, practical financial information. Designed to bridge the gap, the Beyond Success program leverages a comprehensive educational bootcamp to equip young minds with essential financial literacy skills. At Beyond Success, it's not just about teaching financial literacy, it's also about fostering a foundation for a prosperous and empowered future. Join us. Together we can build a brighter financial future for the next generations. Join us. Together we can build a brighter financial future for the next generations. Hey everybody, welcome back to Inspired to Invest. I've got Raki Dinger here with me from Mortgage Savvy, and we're talking about some of the successes and challenges that she's experienced over the last several years, from building a portfolio to actually, unfortunately, losing her partner in life. So she's sharing some of those lessons that have come along with appropriate planning. Now, I always kind of lead after the break with a question that I like to usually have a little bit of fun with is, what's one of the craziest things that you've ever experienced as a real estate investor or as a business owner?
I'd say as a real estate investor, you kind of get to a place where you think you have like this pep in your step because there's a level of confidence that comes from success. And we purchased an investment property where we were not aware. The intention was a flip, like a very short term, let's turn this around, get it back on market. The structural issues that we uncovered with this property.
And sideways. Yeah.
What I very quickly also realized through that experience is how important it is to have a real estate lawyer that truly understands, that isn't, again, transactional, that's there to provide that support. We had someone that was very skilled to help. We leaned into title insurance.
Yeah.
To offset some of these expenses. And when I shared the story even today, they're surprised that, many lawyers are not aware of what's available. So you want to work with somebody, again, that's in this every day.
Yeah.
The more you do, the more you're learning. But it's important to plan, again, for contingency. Yeah. Things don't always.
Then did your title insurance cover the structural
issues part of it,
yeah. About? Okay.
Part of it, yes.
And then in terms of cost, like what would something like that cost you? Like for someone that doesn't know, like are you looking at like $100,000 to fix it, 50,000?
We started with a shortfall of 250 and it doubled.
Oh, that's pretty significant. And that's on a single family home?
It was on a single family home, but the intention was it would be a 2-unit dwelling.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. Yeah. So basically your title insurance does it help you offset some of that additional cost?
We were able to identify certain issues that helped cover a component of it, not all of it, but every little bit helps at that stage. Now, I'd say it was just when I had the property appraised. So what we did is we hung on to it, right? Like this is where, in order to minimize sort of any losses, we had to think longevity with this property.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, in terms of advice, what would you say is some of the best advice that you've either just come to understand for yourself or you've been given over the years?
I think we went through over a decade of consistent appreciations in the market, and real estate became the natural default. I think it's important to have very honest and transparent conversations that real estate isn't liquid. It's not a liquid investment strategy. So diversification is important and reassessing your priorities. And I think, again, so whether it's investing in real estate or creating leverage on the properties you own to invest elsewhere to offset your losses is important, right? So everybody's going to have a different strategy. In this market, I'm very specific about assessing risk tolerance, understanding what a client's objectives and needs are, and aligning a strategy to match.
Yeah, I think that's smart. And I think a lot of people went on this frenzy. I would say if you earmark 2017, 18 up until like 2021, and everything was going up, and then it was going up very, very quickly and a lot year over year. And then obviously interest rates started climbing, and it was that cataclysm of now things are becoming less affordable based on your interest rates or to the point you can't afford them at all, and then your market's depressed. So it's not like you can exit very easily in those situations too, right? So I think just making sure that you're scaling appropriately, you're structuring your deals appropriately. I've seen a lot of investors run into trouble because they raised money to buy properties on debt as opposed to equity. And then it's, just they can't afford everything. Like it's not sustainable to cover those kinds of interest payments on both ends. So I've seen a lot of people kind of get into hot water in the last couple of years over things like that.
I would completely agree. And there are areas, like there are lucrative opportunities. You just have to open your mind to possibilities that may not necessarily be the default. I think
Yeah.
have a tendency to follow what other people are doing. And right now in the multi-unit space, we've expanded and built out our commercial brokerage, and that has been lucrative, but it's also been lucrative for investors. A 5-unit property, bank rates, 45, 50-year amortizations, cash flowing. There is opportunity, and you can do that with a minimal down payment.
Yeah.
$2.8 million property, that's 160,000 as a down payment
Yeah.
on a
And that's
fine.
the thing. I don't think people realize all the added benefits sometimes of commercial. They just look at the price tag and like, I can't come up with 20,000 or 30,000, but they may not realize that they don't have to personally qualify for those properties. And they may not realize some of the products that are now available that can make it more digestible for investors.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I definitely right now feel that there's ample opportunity right now in the multi-unit,
Yeah.
um, lucrative opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. Now, you obviously have this robust portfolio already. What would you say is next for you?
So for me, I'm in a place of wanting to live life and diversification, and real estate is not where I have all my eggs. So I'm very clear with that. I am carrying a portfolio that I can now maintain and sustain based on my personal life goals, but it's also understanding that you could still invest in real estate, not necessarily own an entire property that requires management. So working with professionals that have access to products that are going to meet your specific investment appetite. And that's where my mind is right now. And so it's really about creating a soft landing for individuals, ensuring that they're protecting. So it's gone from executing a mortgage to helping them protect what they have,
Yeah.
ensuring that whatever their leverage strategy is or their acquisition strategy is, that it gets them to that final scene of a movie, and
Yeah.
it aligns with those sort of priorities.
How would you say that real estate investing has changed your life when it comes to, just thinking long term or maybe in terms of freedom and things like that? Because you still have your active business, but then obviously you've got this side as well.
It's nice being able to come to work every day with a pep in your step because you're not focused on the transaction. You're truly focused on the relationship. And the only way to do that is to have an understanding that you have additional sources of income, right? That provides stability. You can actually create that for yourself. And for myself now being on my own, what I've done is gone and created these multiple streams because that's how I sleep
Yeah.
at night.
Yeah.
So coming to work every day is really about and being present and leading with the best intentions and being able to completely be available to my client needs to have me ensure that I have additional strategies in place.
Yeah.
My real estate strategy is what gave me the ability, my husband and I, the ability to be at home with our daughter for the first decade of her life. What a gift. I grew up in a household where I saw my dad at 7:30 to 8 for dinner every night.
Yeah.
And I saw my mom every morning, and they would come home and, low energy. Instead, she got full access to us. The parent picked her up one way or the other. We were entrepreneurs, but it gave us flexibility. And regardless of how much I could put towards private school, I think emotional stability and intelligence comes from having two loving parents that are there. So for me, it is the reason my daughter is as incredible as she is, because it gave me the ability of being present.
Yeah. No, I love that. Now, obviously, the name of this podcast is Inspired to Invest. So I always like to ask my guests if they have a particular quote that motivates or inspires them.
I do. So success is not final, and failure is never fatal. And that we need to continue to understand that these are the lessons that teach us resilience, that give us new skills, that allow us to reach a new destination, right? So it's that constant mindset. And I think as entrepreneurs, that's how we operate in our day to day. And it's just reminding ourselves of that. It's like that's the mantra. We should expect it. And this is
Yeah.
what comes.
Yeah, no, that's great. So, in terms of anyone that wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to connect?
So an easy way to connect and ensure that you're staying connected to, the knowledge we're looking to share is through Instagram at Mortgage Savvy. And also, anybody that's looking to connect can also email. It's my first name, which is Rakhee, Rakhee, at msavvy.ca.
So we'll include all of that in the show notes below. Of course, thank you for taking time out of your busy day to be with us for today. And for anyone that is watching or listening, we appreciate your time as well. If you have enjoyed this episode, please make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe below. And you're following along at Inspired to Invest podcast on social. And above all else, remember, when you invest in yourself, the sky's the limit. Thanks again. Thank you to the REI Loop for bringing you this episode of Inspired to Invest. The views represented on this podcast are for general information only and does not constitute investment or other professional advice or an offering of securities. The host and guests featured on Inspired to Invest make no representations as to the performance of any particular investment. Should you decide to make an investment, you are responsible for conducting your own review and analysis. It is recommended that you obtain independent legal, accounting, and tax advice from licensed professionals.